Hello everybody and welcome to episode 8 of my tutorial series for Captain of Industry. I'm Icon and today we're going to cover a couple of topics. So the first one is going to be exploration. It's been overdue and it's going to be quite simple, I promise. Topic 2, we're going to cover Tier 2 science because that's just the next bigger milestone up ahead of us. And the third thing is I want to optimize my construction part production because that's going to be vital for the future. So let's get started, shall we? Exploration first. It's really extremely simple. First off, we're going to go over to the ship and load the crew it needs. So make sure you have the workers. At first it's just 15. Then press tab, select a random node around you, click on it, click explore. Boom. Ship goes off and that's that. Important is there's a fuel reserve on your ship. So make sure that the distance to the between the island and your ship and the fuel reserves, you know, get the idea. Just make sure that this thing is always stacked with fuel. I haven't tried out what happens if you go stranded, but I'm sure nothing good. So your ship will go on over there, and then it'll spend some time there exploring, consuming fuel while it does so, and then we'll get a readout about what has happened. So stay busy with other things in between. I want to get on one problem that I noticed between the episodes, a kind of odd one, which I don't know how it came together, but I want to show how to fix it. So, oddly enough, this one unit storage, it has the same configurations as all the other unit storages, but you notice it's empty. I really don't know why my trucks have abandoned it. It had no effect to change these settings whatsoever. So if that ever happens to you, what was the magical fix for me was to set up here a certain amount of things that should be in there and increase the input priority. And all of a sudden, the trucks are wheezing over there again, filling these things. Again, I don't really know how it came together. My assumption was that the auto deploy system got somehow stuck when the ramp had to be installed, but anyhow, that's a way to fix it. And I'm somehow concerned that this might have happened to our wood storage too, so let's make sure it'll happen. Okay, so let's make sure that these things are working as good as possible. So I have already upgraded all these assemblies into electric ones. That means we have a really strong throughput for our available technologies, at least. So I've also put on the slider here to show ratios as per minute. This makes things so much easier to compare. You know, you can do, of course, the number crunch here, but it's really much more difficult to compare a recipe which runs in batches of per 40 versus a recipe which runs in batches of per 20. This thing here just calculates all up to the same, and it's really a godsend. We're going to use that now a lot. So let's check it out. Our tier 1 construction parts need 9 iron plates per second times 2 because we run that twice. Once for the storage here, just to build with it, and the other one for the second assembly, transforming these guys into construction parts. So we are therefore needing 18 iron plates per second, or per minute. Do we produce one of these metal casters produces 12 times 2, we're in the clear. So we are actually producing 24. So let's make sure we have enough for every connected dude here. So 9 here times 2 is 18. And this guy needs 7.5, so 18 plus 7.5 is a total of 25.5. So we're actually not on the 100% efficiency line here, but it's okay. It's okay. Bumping up our iron production into this grid would be a really big hassle. If we'd really need to, we could also invest Unity there at a monthly rate, but for now, it'll work. So, for the wood, well, let's see if our woodcutters are keeping up. I am somewhat doubting that, but we'll see that on the run. Concrete slabs. So we need 24 concrete slabs per second. Concrete slabs, we are producing 12 per second, so we need to double up on that. All right. Another thing that's been a problem, which is going to be fixed now. A rainwater harvester is just not producing enough water for these guys. You see here, the average water collection of these guys is 3.5 per 60, and our concrete mixer here needs 4 per 60, so this guy is never going to cut it. And you have now two options. First off, you can just install more rainwater harvesters. If you are in an area without groundwater, this might be actually a smart idea, but since we are in an area with groundwater, we don't need to. So I'm going to install a groundwater pump here, but I leave that here up and running so we don't run out of water. Would be a shame, because right now we don't have the necessary construction parts just for this groundwater pump yet. So let's use the time in between to just bump up our production. But first, we are notified that our location is finally explored. You can see here, by the way, what your ship is doing up here. So our ship has discovered an oil rig. So we get rubber, copper, and vehicle parts. These get loaded on the ship and have to be transported home. We also have discovered a new technology. So that's really good for us, because this means we have an oil source right next door. So we can now send the ship home to carry the loot back home. The oil rig, by the way, needs 120 construction parts, which need to be loaded onto the ship, transported with the ship over there, so we can repair that. We're going to do that in the course of the series, of course. So now we have to wait until we got the necessary construction parts, but luckily we are now much more productive than before. So we get the stuff in here. And let's head on over to our concrete situation here. So let's do the same we did just with the other facility. We're going to check out, do we have enough production of those resources to facilitate a second concrete mixer? So we need 1.5 cement per batch. We produce 3 per 60, so we can easily install a second one. We need sand, 3 per 60, we produce 8 per 60, good. Slag, we need 9 per 60, that's actually quite a lot, but we're producing 24 per 60, so no issue. Water. We already talked about water, that's why we are installing the groundwater pump. Let's head on over to our place here. So a groundwater pump is providing 48 water per 60, so we will have no issue whatsoever to provide enough water for our production here. What is an issue, though, is this facility has not been constructed with the idea of running several concrete mixers. And you see here, this problem shows up here. This is a quite crammed up place, and this is what happens when you are not planning your facilities. We are going to change that, and we are going to fix that, and I'm going to talk about the problems and why it's good to plan bigger in the first place. As has been pointed out in the comments section, this whole thing here would have been already plannable larger in terms of ratios and all, but since this is a beginner's tutorial after all, I don't want to slap entire blueprints in your face without explaining why we need them, because I don't like to produce just for the sake of production. Our workers are limited, our resources are limited, our power is limited, so we should be working with things we actually need. But here we now see that we need double the amount of concrete. So what to do? We're going to press C, and we are going to check out what we can do. So you notice the water connector can be placed like that. So we can now go either this way and check out if we can connect those bad boys somewhere else, or we can just go for this way. We're going to try it that way. It's up to you, really, and in situations like these, you will always die a certain death of inefficiency, so to say, because it is not possible to fix these systems in a way that it'll be beautiful again. So we're starting out with the shortest connection first and proceed to the longest. So we need a different type of connector here. So let's connect that one there. Right click once more, press C once more. And as you see here, this is an entire mess of belts, but it'll work for us for now. I'm not quite proud of it, but it'll do. So let's set it up. Make sure that we're going to run a conveyor over here. And now let's go for the pipes. We're going to go one pipe system there. Now let's see if we can snuggle in the water like this. There we go. Alright, this ain't looking beautiful. This is not beautiful because it's just made on the fly. And these systems also tend to be hard to access for your trucks, as you see there. So there's a plenitude of downsides of doing it like that, and therefore, whatever you plan doing, if you want to do it really optimal, try to foresee where to leave expansion room. That's a really good thing to do. For example, here we are producing 24 gravel per minute, and we're merely using 8 gravel per minute, so we could make way more sand than that. So if we need more sand, I'd be deconstructing this bad boy here and go with my sand production into this field here, so I at least have a plan. But let's see, maybe we need to reconstruct this entire thing, and if so, it's really not a big deal. Factory games are, well, provoking reconstructions quite regularly. So our ship is back home, and as you see here, it has now the cargo, which it cannot unload because the shipyard is full. That's one thing about the shipyard, it has to be emptied. So we're going to go with the slider here on keep it empty, although it'll be a pain because we really don't have the necessary goods to go for that. We've also loaded up some iron scrap, so I just re-enable the recipe for iron scrap here, just to make sure that these materials can be dropped somewhere. We're also going to enable copper scrap here, just for the sake of our trucks being able to unload that stuff somewhere. So, we are pretty set though. As you see here, we are on a constant lack of concrete slabs, though. That's mainly because our rainwater supply is just constantly letting us down. So we really need to bring in more there. But it's all in the making, so we're golden. Now, exploration has one more thing that I want to add up there. So in these unknown location nodes, sometimes you find tech, sometimes you don't find tech, and you find population for your city. So whenever you go exploring, you should always make sure that you have some way of accommodate more people, because unlike the cargo, the people will be instantaneously flowing into your city or settlement, or however you want to call it, and will be a problem for you if you aren't prepared. So homelessness is not exactly a fiasco or anything, but it'll lower the health of your settlement and therefore will turn into a problem and can be a propulsion for already existing problems. Okay, so right now we are ought to wait for the advanced construction parts, which is just not coming together in the speed that we'd like to. That's mostly because we're constantly on a concrete slab lack, but it's getting better. And with the second machine up and running, we're also going to have more luck with this. So it'll truly get better once the groundwater pump is running. But until then, we are working with what we got. So let's just let that go as it is and work on the next topic I've been talking about, and that's the research labs. So the Tier 2 research labs behave a little bit different. They need lab equipment to run, and they also need, of course, a couple of materials to be built. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to deconstruct these bad boys here, because their positioning is outright bad. We're going to need a proximity to the production side of where these things where the lab equipment is being produced. So this is way too far off the grid. So we want to be a little bit closer to the whole iron mining ops, don't we? So let's get on there. Let's put on the layer tab once more. I don't necessarily want to interfere with the groundwater table here. So how about this area here? We can go for some serious deforestation here. Boom, just like that. And we're going to be quite happy with this one. Alright, so we have already found out that our production here is totally not capable of supporting more. The manual assembly is producing mechanical parts, which are actually part of the recipe there, but the maintenance depot is eating up 6 mechanical parts per 60, and we're producing 6 mechanical parts per 60, so you get the idea. No. We're going to need to set up an entirely new lane here, and now let's press Ctrl-C. Or did they, here. So you can now press just C down there, and then you just drag and drop the grid like that. And now we got this wonderful little thing on our cursor. And now we just rotate it and plot it down there. So now we just copied our entire iron production, and we're just about to multiply it. And that's another reason why it is really good to avoid scenarios like these, and promise I will do my best to avoid these in the future. Can't promise that it won't happen though, because I'm not a genius. I'm just a normal guy doing tutorials, and from time to time spaghetti happens. I just say that because you shouldn't be too hard on yourself either. Perfectionism is just a certain form of masochism, and you know, don't get too crazy about if things need optimization, if things are looking like this at first, and you just deconstruct them and reconstruct them somewhere else until it's just the thing you wanted to have. That's what we call learning curve, and videos like these are just meant to keep that pain a little bit away from you. And that's why I'm doing this to myself here, so you don't have to. So as you see here, this whole facility is now being built. When you are copy pasting things like these, of course, the problem there is you'd have to configure the priorities manually to make sure that your trucks are not doing anything stupid there. What I want to do, though, is I want to make sure that my trucks are prioritizing the groundwater pump over anything else, because this is right now one of the most important things that we need to set up. So blast furnace is going to run on these. And let's check out the rest of this recipe. So we are going to need to produce tier 2 research. We need to produce lab equipment. We are also going to need an electrical assembly. You can produce these in a manual assembly. So, I mean, I don't feel like that's too much of a surprise. But we also need another electronics facility. So we can also just go on over here. We already got one there, so here goes that. But I don't want to copy that, because this is already, here's a little bit of a jumble between those conveyor belts, and actually it ain't that complicated. So let's see, where's actually my place where I'm producing my rubber at? I'm a little bit confused. Are we actually producing any rubber anymore? Ah, here, the rubber maker. Sorry. So let's check it out. We gotta make sure that all of these things are working out as intended. So we are producing 12 rubber per 60. So we are consuming here 1 rubber per 60. Yeah, we shouldn't worry about that too much, shouldn't we? Good. But I really wanted to check before I go nuts there. Okay, so we can now just set up another assembly, but before I do so, I really want to make sure this bad boy is finally coming together. As you can see here, our production is on a crawl, merely because we don't have the advanced construction parts to finish this groundwater pump. Or, I gotta say, we're one part short. But hey, that's life. I guess we almost done it now. Okay. Meanwhile, this place is getting done. That ain't a bad thing either. So, we're going to go into planning mode again. This planning mode is a nice way to make sure that we are not going to drain our resources there. I really struggle with the icons down here. I really try to memorize them, but I struggle. Okay, so we're going to set up now at first the facility for the mechanical parts that we're going to need. Compared to the things we already did there, it's going to be quite easy. Oh, whoopsie. There we go. Just hovering over there and pressing R is the trick, you see. We can't do that, though, with already built buildings, which benefits to the planning mode. Alright, so we got that. So we're going to put up at the next point the electric assembly, which is going to produce for us these boys there. So let's see, we're going to need 6 mechanical parts per 60 and 6 electronics per 60. So one of these guys is able to support 2 of these guys. Beautiful. How about the electronics part, though? So one electronics facility is going to produce, well, we're going not to go for manual anymore. So let's check that out. I'm just trying to find a spot. Let's go on over there. Just want to make sure that the electronics production is not going to interfere with the mechanical parts production, so we can keep things nice and expandable. Alright, electronics, there we go. So we produce 12 per 60. So that means we are, right from the get-go, able to make that double here. Brilliant. Okay, so let's do this. Alright. That and that. What's missing here is we're going to need the storage buildings there. So we're going to set up one for copper and one for rubber. And this way we can plan everything while we're not draining any resources. And hopefully when we are done with this part, our other dudes are going to be done with the rest there. Alright, so let's get it up like that. So can we connect it like that? No, we can't. Too bad. So, well, let's delete that. Probably delete that one too. Alright, so we're going to connect that one like this, and that one like this, and let's see if that'll work out better. Definitely looks so. There we go. Okay, so we got all that, and now we are only needing to find out how our labs are going to work out. So, Tier 2 Research Lab. It's not exactly a small thing. So, tell you what, we're going to go somewhere there. Alright, so each of these guys needs 4 per 60. We are producing, like... Alright, we are massively overproducing lab parts at this point. So we're... I can't build over trees. Okay. I thought we'd automatically remove them then. Okay. So let's see. For starters, we're just going to leave it with these two there. So that even means the whole second facility can be held on planning mode until we need it. That's a pretty good thing. This way we have reserved everything we need, and why isn't anything here getting done so far? So or was just the work routine that slow? Okay, so guys, yeah, we're just out of concrete slabs. Here, that's why you should really try to avoid relying on rainwater collectors, because they're just going to let you down, as you can see here. So, but where are these? So, yeah. So for some reason, we didn't have any Slack imports anymore. Alright. And any, no, okay. No wonder nothing's getting done. Alright. So it wasn't the water trolling us. And here you see the armada of trucks rushing on in to get the job done. So, I'm really, frankly, a tad bit confused how that comes up. If somebody knows, I might assume it's the competing storages. Like, if you have several storages for the same thing, they seem to need those designators, but I could really use some proofing on that. Whether I'm just dumb at this point, could be the case. If it's some weird pathing bug, or if it's just competing storages needing this function. Let me know if you know. I'm always eager to get some new informations myself to spread them with you folks. So the last thing we're going to need there now are flat conveyors. So we're going to let them run from this point. There we go. But like I said, these projects here are, for now, held on hold, because we got more important things to do for the time being. So I think after this crisis has been averted now, well, to sum up the things here, we now know how exploration works. We just happen to create more storage rooms so the shipyard can be emptied. We now know why it's way better to plan things cozily ahead and plan them big and make them expandable. Probably keep some things unplanned as well, and as long as you don't need them. We have learned how to use the copy tool and how to adjust malfunctioning supply routes. So I'd say that's been quite a good episode. So drop me your comments down below. Leave me your thumbs up if you enjoyed, and of course consider subscribing. Next episode, we're going to dive into the stuff that we can do with the tier 2 tech, and I'm really looking forward to that. I can't really tell which one at which one we'll start there. There are a couple of cool things. We can start to dispose our waste by burning it. Yeah, well, it's not really that good, but you see the pollution. We have a new sort of power generation, which needs some explanation. We are able to produce fuel out of potatoes, and we are able to produce oil on a more professional level, or diesel on a more professional level. There's a lot of cool things happening next. I'll be letting this system run a little bit until all the construction sites are done. Especially this little facility is a bit of a resource drainer. Here, this is finally done, so we can deconstruct this for good. So you get the idea. As soon as these things have happened, we're going to tune on in for the next chapter. So have a good one, and see you soon. Bye-bye.